The Princess of Wales has made an emotional appearance at a Manchester cancer centre, giving a rare insight into her own treatment. Kate Middleton met with nurses and patients undergoing chemotherapy and shared a special moment with one mum who has beaten the disease.
There are moments in the life of an institution as old and as carefully managed as the British monarchy when a shift happens not through announcement or decree, but through the accumulated weight of public attention, moving in a direction that nobody officially acknowledges and nobody can entirely stop. The shift that has been building around Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the quietly diminishing visibility of Queen Camilla is exactly that kind of moment. It did not begin with a dramatic confrontation or a palace statement or a single event that changed everything overnight. It began with something much more difficult to pin down and much more powerful for being so: the steady, unmistakable realignment of where millions of people are looking when they think about the British royal family and what it represents. The most recent and most publicly visible expression of this shift came during Catherine's emotional visit to a cancer center in Manchester, where she met with nurses, patients, and families navigating particular kind of fear and exhaustion that cancer treatment produces. For Catherine, who completed her own chemotherapy treatment in 2024 and spoke publicly about what that experience demanded of her, the visit carried a personal dimension that no amount of careful public relations work could have manufactured. She sat with patients receiving chemotherapy. She spoke with a mother who had beaten the disease. She offered the specific kind of presence that only someone who has genuinely been through something similar can offer. Not sympathy from a distance, but recognition from the inside. The response from everyone in that room and from the millions who watched the coverage afterward was not the polite engagement that routine royal appearances tend to generate. It was something considerably warmer and more personal than that. What made the Manchester visit so significant in the broader context of the monarchy's current moment was not simply what happened inside the cancer center. It was what the coverage of that visit revealed about where public attention has settled and how dramatically the balance has shifted. Images of Catherine's interactions circulated across every platform simultaneously. Television coverage lingered on her presence with an attention and warmth that reflected genuine public investment rather than obligatory protocol. The articles that followed attracted engagement at a scale that surprised even experienced royal watchers who had spent years tracking these patterns. And in all of that coverage, in all of those discussions, in all of that genuine public outpouring, Queen Camilla was essentially absent from the conversation. Not because she had done anything wrong, not because she had retreated from her responsibilities, but simply because the center of gravity and public perception of the monarchy had moved somewhere else. To understand how this happened requires going back further than Manchester and further than Catherine's cancer diagnosis, to the years of patient, consistent work that built the foundation for everything that has followed. When Catherine married Prince William in 2011, the commentary about her was frequently focused on what she wore, how she looked, and whether she was performing the ceremonial aspect of royal life with sufficient grace. The deeper qualities that have since become the defining features of her public presence, the genuine connection with ordinary people, the serious engagement with causes like early childhood development and mental health, the ability to move between moments of institutional formality and genuine human warmth without apparent effort, took time to become fully visible. They became visible through repetition, through thousands of individual interactions, visits, conversations, and appearances that collectively demonstrated something that cannot be performed consistently over more than a decade: genuine commitment to the work. Her illness changed everything in ways that are still being fully understood. When Catherine announced in March 2024 that she had been diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing chemotherapy, the public reaction went beyond the sympathy that any serious illness announcement from a prominent figure would generate. It touched something specific and personal in millions of people who had watched her for years and felt they understood, at least partially, who she was. The months that followed, during which she withdrew from public duties to focus on recovery, while managing the reality of serious illness alongside 3 young children, were watched with collective anxiety that the monarchy had not generated in the general public in quite that way for a very long time. When she returned to public life, the relief and warmth in the public response was genuine and immediate. People were not simply glad that a prominent figure had recovered. They were glad that she specifically had recovered, which is a meaningfully different thing. That recovery and return have repositioned Catherine within the royal family's public narrative in ways that nobody formally planned and nobody formally announced. She is now a person who has faced something genuinely frightening, handled it with dignity, and emerged from it with a clarity of purpose that comes through in everything she does publicly. The Manchester Cancer Center visit was the most direct expression of this new dimension, but it is present in every public engagement she has undertaken since returning. There is a quality of earned authority in how she now carries herself that was not as visible before, and the public has responded to it in ways that are impossible to manufacture or fake. Against this backdrop, Queen Camilla's position presents an interesting and in some ways genuinely difficult contrast. Camilla became Queen Consort when King Charles III ascended the throne in September 2022, a journey that required navigating decades of public controversy, significant personal criticism, and a particular challenge of becoming the monarch's wife in the shadow of one of the most beloved figures the royal family has produced in living memory. Her rehabilitation and public perception across the years between her marriage to Charles in 2005 and his accession was real, genuinely hard-won, and deserves recognition. She is not the figure she once was in terms of public hostility, but rehabilitation from controversy is a different thing from inspiring the active warmth and investment that Catherine now generates, and a distinction has become increasingly visible in how the public engages with each of them. When royal events feature both women, the coverage patterns have become strikingly consistent. Articles that once distributed attention relatively evenly across senior royal figures now frequently foreground Catherine even when Camilla is present in the same capacity. Social media engagement with content featuring Catherine consistently outperforms comparable content featuring Camilla by margins that royal media analysts have begun discussing openly. Television coverage of joint appearances tends to return more frequently and more lingeringly to Catherine. None of this reflects any institutional decision about their relative importance. Camilla remains queen. The constitutional hierarchy is unchanged. But public attention does not follow constitutional hierarchy. It follows human connection, emotional resonance, and the sense that a particular person represents something that matters to you. By that measure, the gap between these two women has grown considerably wider in recent months. The international dimension of this shift makes it even more significant. The public fascination with Catherine is not limited to Britain. She has become one of the most recognizable and most discussed royal figures globally, appearing consistently in international media coverage with prominence that reflects genuine worldwide interest rather than simply the geographic reach of British media. Her visits abroad, her participation in diplomatic contexts, her engagement with international causes, all of it has contributed to an image of someone who can represent the monarchy credibly and warmly to audiences everywhere. That kind of international recognition is an asset to the institution that goes considerably beyond domestic popularity, and it has implications for how the monarchy positions itself as it navigates an era in which its relevance is more frequently questioned and more actively defended than in previous generations. What makes the current situation particularly interesting for those who follow the monarchy closely is the question of whether what is happening is purely organic or partly managed. The British royal family communicates in layers, and official positioning through appearance scheduling, photo opportunities, and a careful calibration of who stands where and speaks when is a form of institutional communication as deliberate as any press release. The increasing frequency with which Catherine appears at the forefront of important occasions, the consistency with which official imagery places her prominently, the range of high-profile contexts in which she is now being used to represent the institution. None of this happens accidentally in an organization as carefully managed as a monarchy. Whether the palace is responding to organic public demand by giving Catherine a larger platform, or whether there is a more deliberate long-term positioning strategy at work, the outcome is the same. She is becoming the face through which much of the world is choosing to see the British royal family. For Camilla, the position this creates is genuinely complex. She has done nothing wrong. She has retreated from nothing. She continues to fulfill her responsibilities with a consistency and professionalism that has characterized her later royal career. But she is operating in an environment where public fascination has concentrated elsewhere with a consistency and intensity that her own public persona simply does not generate. This is not entirely about Catherine's qualities or Camilla's limitations. It is partly about timing, circumstance, and a specific emotional story that Catherine's cancer experience wrote in the public imagination. That story connected her to ordinary human experience in a way that is almost impossible to replicate through conventional royal work, however diligently and admirably performed. The broader question that all of this raises is what it means for the monarchy as an institution at a moment when its relevance, its future, and its ability to connect with younger generations are subjects of genuine public debate. Institutions in general and monarchies in particular depend on their ability to project human faces that people feel personally connected to. The more deeply people feel that connection, the more readily they extend the benefit of the doubt, the more actively they defend the institution when it is criticized, and the more likely they are to pass that investment on to the next generation. By that measure, Catherine's growing centrality to how the public experiences and thinks about the British royal family is not simply a matter of personal popularity. It is an institutional asset of considerable value. The pattern that has emerged around her over the past several months, the emotional Manchester visit, the continued recovery of her public standing, the consistent media and public response to her every appearance, the growing sense among royal observers that she has become the reference point through which the monarchy is being interpreted. All of this points towards something that is already happening rather than something that might happen in the future. Catherine has not formally taken control of anything. No titles have changed. No authority has been transferred. But the narrative has moved, and in the life of an institution that runs substantially on narrative, perception, and emotional investment of millions of people, that movement is more consequential than any formal announcement would be. Camilla has not lost her position, but she has, visibly and measurably, lost the center of the conversation. And that center now belongs, unmistakably and increasingly permanently, to someone else.